I was just like devastated. I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I spent, I think, like a night crying, and people were like, okay, you need to calm down. Like this.
These recent law school graduates thought they would be pulling down six-figure salaries as new associates at corporate firms.
I was gonna join the corporate department of the Ropes and Gray practice.
I thought I would be at Blank Rome at this point doing real estate.
Intellectual property litigation, so probably patent stuff.
The apartment is perfectly fine. It's the area, and like they have me on the first floor, and they're always shooting and fighting and cursing.
But instead of working on multi-million-dollar deals as expected, new attorneys like Chris Reed are defending the poor and indigent. Lauren Donnelly is Reed's boss.
And it's a real different experience than probably they thought they were getting. They think they're going to be working for this like big sort of white shoe law firm, and they're a little bit maybe more down and dirty, nitty-gritty than they had anticipated.
Welcome. This is a really important project that you're part of.
Last spring, virtually an entire class of corporate lawyers-to-be were told by their prospective firms that because of the recession, they could not afford to hire them right after graduation. So in order to hold on to their young talent, many firms gave their now deferred new hires an unusual option. They could receive a fraction of their starting salary this year and start as second-year associates at the firm next year if they took temporary jobs working in public interest law.
I need to talk to like a landlord's lawyer and start negotiating stuff and figuring out. I just don't know what any of them look like.
140 young lawyers have taken their firms up on the offer. Chris Reed is spending his deferred year working for the Legal Aid Society in their Brooklyn Housing Court office.
The way I look at it is I think, well, you know, I just graduated from law school. I know me. I wouldn't hire me as my lawyer at this point. She wants to get out of the apartment she's in.
Just a few weeks into the job, Reed prepares for his first day in court, with Donnelly showing him the ropes.
If there's a settlement that's not reached today, then a trial date's going to be is going to be picked.
And that's unfortunate, yeah.
But then you and I are going to have to decide what we're going to do. You know, we'll decide whether or not you're going to do a trial.
For Reed, this is an opportunity to get a lot of trial experience very early in his career. For legal aid, Reed is freed labor at a time when they cannot afford to hire new staff attorneys.
Ideally, the ideal situation certainly is to have staff attorneys working at the Legal Aid Society who are employed here, who have chosen this job because it was their number one selection, or it was their calling, or it was their, it was their sort of heart that chose the job, not to be too corny, rather than making the decision for some other reason or being forced.
I have to admit that I had not worked very often with very disadvantaged people, and that coming from a fairly well-off background myself, there was a little bit of uncomfortableness that comes from that. Same landlord, there to a different apartment.
You are every single day knee-deep in the problems of somebody that are more significant than you could possibly imagine, or in many ways that you can't relate to. So if you don't have passion for it, it can be a real problem.
It says here that you owe a total of $3,598.75 in rent. Is that accurate?
So I've been pleasantly surprised so far by the externs. While it may not have been their first choice, I feel like they're learning something about themselves that maybe they didn't anticipate.
In interviewing the clients to get the legal facts of the case, it's impossible not to hear their human story. By the time you know enough to help argue the case or help them legally, you've become emotionally invested in the outcome.
You should never leave a courtroom feeling like you didn't have your day in court. And I just want to make sure that you feel that way.
I walked in for help, trying to save my behind and my two kids from being in the street, and through the process, I ran into Lauren and Chris.
Kenneth, who asked that his last name not be used, was in a dispute with his landlord over working as a handyman in his building to cover his rent.
My landlord tried to come at me with an outrageous back rent, which was bogus.
We want it to be a judgment.
There is a judgment already.
With Donnelly looking over his shoulder, Chris Reed was able to negotiate a deal with the landlord's attorney.
So it looks like the landlord has agreed to settle this case at the rate of $900 per month, with you owing $7,000. So the rest of the arrears that were owed back in July don't have to be paid. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is that how you understand this agreement?
Yes, sir.
That's really good news for you.
Yes, sir. They rolled me through this thing, man. They stuck with me step for step for step, and phone calls, everything. I got that from Chris, checking on me. Is everything okay? Kenny, we looking at your case. Is this going right? Is this going right? And that showed me that somebody do care. I mean, somebody do their job. You know, they do want to help people.
Chris, thanks for the pleasure, and good luck to you and your family. Let's go downstairs and get a copy of that.
It's all done legal, and I love it. And I love my attorneys. I wish I could pay them. You know, they're great.
I mean, I feel like I get to go to work every day and say that I try to prevent people from being thrown out onto the street, and I can't sort of imagine a better way to spend your time than that.
The kind of job I'm doing now at Legal Aid is something that is not for everyone. One week I may be able to, come home with a big smile because I've managed to negotiate a good deal to give someone time, to pay back rent instead of being kicked out of their house. The next week, I may have a case where there's simply nothing I can do. At the end of a couple weeks, that person may end up getting evicted, and that feels terrible. And so whether or not that's a career that I could do for my whole life is not something I'm sure about yet. I'm very glad I'm doing it now for this year.
Chris Reed still plans to return to patent litigation after his year at Legal Aid, but he intends to continue working on housing cases pro bono.